So I've always been a big fan of all things horror. I remember getting the Bride of Chucky VHS tape at 8 years old, watching things that no child should ever watch, but my parents clearly didn't know what they were doing. I was obsessed, honestly. I was so into the movie Child's Play. My parents even got me a Chucky doll, and from there it spiraled into me loving the likes of the Halloween movies. I ended up liking the likes of The Nightmare on Elm Street and so on. I got older, I ended up loving the likes of the Resident Evil games, the Silent Hill game. I ended up watching my dad play on the PS1, and it terrified me. I think when it comes to horror, there's no other genre that can keep you engaged. So if you think about another type of game, any genre, there's time to let your mind wander to think, do I want to play this? When a horror game is done right, you've no time to think about anything else apart from trying to stay alive or just focusing on the game. Alan Wake 1 nails certain aspects of this, but then there's other aspects where the game just falls completely short. So I decided, because Alan Wake 2 is out very, very soon, and I was going to get it, I decided, why shouldn't I just play Alan Wake before, get some impressions, and upload them on the channel for you guys to hear. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't, but I think to get a good idea of really how does it hold up in 2023, and is it actually worth playing, or are you better just watching a recap on YouTube? So Alan Wake 1 was created back in 2010 and it released on the Xbox and the PC. Unfortunately, if you had a PlayStation 3 at the time, there was no chance. You had to play it on the PC, and it was the 360, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Pretty damn sure. Anyway, it was Remedy Entertainment's first game after the Max Payne series. But I believe there was 2 Max Payne games. You'll probably remember Max Payne because it had that crazy bullet time dodge or shooting element, which was taken straight from the Matrix movies and Enter the Matrix, the GOAT game. Reception back in the day was actually pretty damn good. I remember it getting rave reviews. A lot of people really enjoyed the game. Now, I actually never touched the game until around 2012 when I did bat on PC. I must have put 30 to 45 minutes into it, but for some reason or another, I never actually stuck with it. So fast forward to 2021 and we now have Alan Wake Remastered. So this is what you get. Remastered graphics in 4K at 60 FPS on select platforms. Most likely you're playing on a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X and S, so you should get all that. If it's on Switch, you're probably playing at 30 FPS, and it probably looks just like it did on the 360, apart from a few resolution bumps. So, what's it about? What is actually Alan Wake's story about? Because the story here is the most important element, if you ask me. And actually, I think if you ask everyone, they'll say the same. So in short, Alan Wake is a novelist. Think around the likes of Stephen King. He writes horror novels / thriller, but he's had writer block for the past 2 years. So him and his wife go on holiday / vacation for all you Yanks to a place called Bright Falls. So think about like a small sleepy town straight out of the likes of Life is Strange, mixed with an eeriness of Silent Hill when the fog starts hitting the fan. But his wife goes missing. Strange, believe it or not, she disappears and chaos ensues. But essentially what starts to happen is you start experiencing events from the plot of Alan's latest novel, which he cannot remember writing. So it all starts coming to life and shit starts hitting the fan. And basically it's your job to try and look for your wife. Basically think Silent Hill 2, but with a bit more story. And that's one thing I actually want to say here. It is heavily inspired by Silent Hill 2. They make no qualms, in my opinion, in terms of just total atmosphere is ripped straight from Silent Hill 2. You know, the fog, the kind of sleepiness town. Obviously, Silent Hill's probably not sleepy. It's depressing as fuck in Silent Hill 2. But you can tell they took a lot of inspiration. Now, I've seen it bandied around a lot that Twin Peaks is actually where this is really inspired from. I haven't watched the show. Obviously, it's a David Lynch show from back in the day. It did get like a remastered series recently. I haven't watched it, or I should say not even a remastered series. It got a series revival. That's the word I'm looking for. You can tell they're inspired by Stephen King. They mention him quite a bit. There is a scene as well with an axe, which rings a bell if you've ever watched or read The Shining. But yeah, in the likes of Silent Hill 2 as well, there's a dual worlds kind of thing going on. So if you think back to Silent Hill series, you've kind of got the... I'm actually forgetting the world, but there's basically 2 worlds. There's a dark world and a light world, to kind of put it the easiest way possible. Story's great. It's very engaging. The characters are quite likable. Alan Wake himself is a bit of a weirdo, but as you will. But even just the side characters, there's a nice radio guy that throughout the game you'll actually start finding these radio, I was going to say radio boxes, boom boxes, and throughout the show, or throughout the game, you'll start hearing the radio show. It's very good for the world building, you know, hearing what's happening around the kind of the area through kind of a third person perspective through this radio host. It's a very great mechanic, and it's actually very good to build the world, and you do kind of start getting a better idea of what's happening outside of just your kind of local radius and kind of what you think's going on.
You can't argue with the heart, Matt. I'm sorry, folks. I had kind of a scary experience last night, and let's just say it's shaking a few things loose.
And they're obviously talking about events that are happening in real time as well. So I actually really like that. I thought it was great. Hopefully with the second game, that's something that they obviously keep up with. I'm really interested in where it goes with that, because I think the second game is gonna be fucking crazy, but we'll get into that in a second. So basically the game is broken up on episodes. You finish an episode, and at the end of each episode, there's a nice wee tune that plays. It kind of reminds me of One Tree Hill, what they do at every episode there. Or the OC. What a great show, guys.
You guys, A+. I love the holidays. I love them all.
And then, beginning the new episode, there's a nice wee recap, and then it leads on to the next episode. So yeah, the episodic approach is cool, and I know that they actually brought this forward with the likes of Quantum Break, and if I remember right, there was a TV show that went in tandem with that. But with this, I actually really dig the setup. The actual setup of the whole game, the story, everything, I was totally bought in. The story is actually very, very interesting. If this was a show, I think it would be incredible. Netflix, get on this. So the gameplay. The gameplay is obviously important. It is a game after all. Like I mentioned earlier, if the gameplay isn't good, if it isn't engaging, your mind's going to wander and you're going to get bored. So basically the core mechanic of the game is you traverse the level, and throughout the level, there's these guys called the Taken. I'm not talking about Destiny, guys. This is the Taken. These were the OG Taken. Basically, they are people from the dark world. I don't even know that's the term for it, but basically they're bad bastards. Anyway, they're after you, and to arm yourself against them, you have a light and a gun. The light gives them damage. Upon a certain amount of damage with the light, you can shoot them with a gun, follow up, and destroy them. This mechanic I actually really liked. I thought it was really fun, and the haptic feedback that you get is fantastic. So basically the whole game is about balancing ammunition with your batteries for your light, and obviously ammunition for your guns. You use light to defend yourself, you get the likes of flares and flashbangs, and basically you're just taking down the enemies. This wasn't a problem. This was actually very good up until episode 2 to 3, where it just became so repetitive. It gets tedious extremely quickly, and that's very much of that era. So if you think back to Uncharted had puzzle, a bit of exploration, a bit of traversal, and then you ran in and there was an arena with enemies, you shoot, you repeat. With this, you have great story elements, and then a part where you're just running through a forest, getting chased by these Taken, and then eventually you shoot them, and then it's the next story beat. Now, it does try to change it up, but unfortunately it tries to change it up with a vehicle. And oh my god, the vehicle in this game has the worst driving in any game I can remember playing. Now, there's probably games that have worse driving. I'm looking at Mass Effect 1, but that was so long ago, and they did fix it in the remaster. But oh my god, the driving in this game is absolutely abysmal. There was one point where I forgot the vehicle, and I walked for 15 minutes. Now, thankfully, in those 15 minutes you can run. Unfortunately, the run is also paired with L1, which is matched with the dodge button. So when you are trying to run from enemies, you're probably going to do a dozy dodge at the same time and then run, or you're just going to mess it up multiple times. So it does get a bit annoying. But in the grand scheme of things, look, it's old. It's from 2010. The game would have been good if the gameplay kind of stayed up to par for that, but unfortunately it didn't. But the story is so good, it does make up for it, but it's hard to get to. The enemies themselves, the Taken, they're born. They look like the local rednecks that are just terrorizing you. And obviously the other enemies, you'll be fighting the likes of containers, which was strange. It reminded me of an old Simpsons game that I played on the Game Boy Color back in the day, where you're getting attacked by the likes of chairs and so on. The exploration though, so it's nice to actually go back and have small kind of environments compared to these massive areas in recent games. Now, the only problem is there, exploration consists of looking around for manuscripts, which give you kind of, which basically foreshadow upcoming events, which is quite cool. Exploration is somewhat worth it, but there's still a lot to be desired. You can get ammo from it, but realistically, is it worth exploring? Probably not. For story reasons, maybe you like it, but in the grand scheme of things, I think you're probably better off. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just play the fucking story if you're doing that. So, looking at Alan Wake 1 in the eyes of a gamer in 2023, it's probably not up to par. That's the truth. Now, if you actually look at Remedy these days, Remedy have progressed so much in the gameplay front that if they were able to progress the gameplay to the quality of the story, this game would be a banger. And that actually leads me to being really excited for Alan Wake 2. Look at Control and Quantum Break. They are supposed to have fantastic gameplay, and I actually haven't played a lot. I've tried some Control, I've tried some Quantum Break, but not enough to have a real opinion. But basically with Alan Wake Remastered, the story is king. Not Stephen King, but the story is king. The gameplay just leaves a lot to be desired. So with Alan Wake 2, I actually think the story is going to be amazing, and the gameplay is going to be amazing. I am very excited, because I know for a fact that this game's going to fucking slap, and it's probably going to get Game of the Year from a lot of people, but it's going to fly under the radar in the grand scheme of things. I'm excited. Honestly, I think if you are picking up Alan Wake 2 and you're maybe put off, or you want to pick it up but you're put off because of Alan Wake 1 sitting there and it's in your backlog and you're thinking should I play it, there's a lot to play at the moment. Just watch a recap. I think that's the best way I go forward, and I believe they actually put up a 3-minute recap on the official channel for Alan Wake. So watch that, jump right in, forget Alan Wake 1. So as you know, we're quite new to making YouTube videos, so if you did enjoy the video, like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what your thoughts are on Alan Wake, and if you'll be picking up Alan Wake 2, let us know in the comments below.